I mean, that's a big chonker of a mall, I'll say that. I want someone to build it. Yeah, okay. Alright. Not right now. They're planning a huge expansion to take the crown back, though. Ah. Alright. So, yeah, that's the Minecraft project. I'm going to take a break now, guys. Sorry, I couldn't play it very long. We're going to go into science and technology, and then we're going to start space news. So, space and rocket review. Alright, I will be back in 15. I'm just going to take a short break. It's because these streams are long. We have about 8 hours more stream, give or take. 6 to 8 hours more stream. So, plenty of stream left. Yeah, I'll be back momentarily. I'll see you on the other side, Ray. Don't cross the streams. All right. I think we're ready for space news here. Let's see. Man, there's a lot of... I hate this kind of news, dude. There's a lot of hearsay news. This stuff's the worst. I can't stand stuff like this. I'll leave that one to the end. I'm just organizing everything here, dudes. All right. Okay. All right, we'll start with this. Is there a plot somewhere that I could try building the NYC unbuilding? What's the... Or the UN building? Oh, it's too tall. I don't have any plot zone for a building that big, Elon, to be honest with you. We'll have plots coming, but yeah, that's too big. It's much... We don't have a lot big enough to hold the entire UN building like that. Yeah, okay, so...
Go and throttle up.
Alright, we have an hour. An hour and 20 minutes, give or take. I'm going to try to start Kerbal around 6, so we got to go through this stuff quick. Hey, Trojan, 42 months. Time is just flying along. Yeah, indeed. Alright, so, this morning there was the pre-flight press conference for Starliner OFT-2. Everything seems good for the Starliner to do the orbital flight test number 2 on Friday, the 30th. So this week at 2:56 p.m. launch time. The only thing that might throw a wrench in that is the weather. But there was a press conference this morning. Everything looks to be good. We listened to it at the beginning of this stream if you want to go check that out. But ULA did release the flight profile here, so we're going to watch that. Let me start off with a little bit of a video here.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. The rise of Starliner, a new era in human spaceflight.
The Atlas V RD-180 main engine and 2 solid rocket boosters ignite to generate more than 1.5 million pounds of thrust to lift the rocket away from the pad. Shortly after liftoff, Atlas begins a pitchover to attain the proper flight path while minimizing the dynamic pressure the vehicle experiences during flight. To ensure crew safety and comfort, the Atlas V rolls to a heads-up position and uses booster engine throttling to limit vehicle acceleration to 3.5 Gs. The Atlas V reaches Mach 1, the speed of sound, at 1 minute 4 seconds. The 2 SRBs are jettisoned at 2 minutes 19 seconds. At 4 minutes 29 seconds, propellant levels deplete and the booster engine shuts down. 6 seconds later, the Atlas Centaur separation system activates to release the booster stage. The vehicle now weighs less than 9% of what it did at liftoff. Jettison of the Ascent cover occurs at 4 minutes 41 seconds. The Ascent cover protects critical hardware on top of the spacecraft and provides an aerodynamic shape for ascent through the atmosphere. 4 seconds later, burn of the dual-engine Centaur begins. This burn guides the Centaur to an elliptical suborbital trajectory at an inclination of approximately 51.6 degrees. Approaching aeroskirt jettison, the Centaur is burning propellant at a rate of 100 pounds or 45 kilograms per second, traveling at more than 10,353 miles or 16,662 kilometers per hour, and located 77 miles or 124 kilometers in altitude, and 332 miles or 534 kilometers downrange. The ULA-designed aeroskirt extends the Starliner's surface, enhancing its aerodynamic characteristics and stability, and minimizing the loads of this unique crewed configuration. At approximately 5 minutes 5 seconds, the aeroskirt is jettisoned. Nearly 12 minutes into flight, cutoff of the Centaur main engines, or MECO-1, occurs. The mission now enters a suborbital coast phase in preparation for separation. Centaur's suborbital trajectory design enhances crew safety by providing a shallow orbit more favorable for an abort if required, and ensures the Centaur will naturally deorbit, impacting the ocean off the southwest coast of Australia. At 14 minutes and 52 seconds, Centaur releases the CST-100 Starliner on its second orbital flight test.
So there you go. That ascent profile looked to basically be mimicking OFT-1. It was very similar. Very similar. Yeah, that is what's hopefully going to happen on the 30th, but the probability of go is very low. It's 40% right now, which is not ideal, meaning that the weather is going to be bad. There is a backup window on the there's a backup window on the 1st and 2nd, I believe. The 31st is no good. The 31st, there's somebody else working the range. They said there's something else happening on the 31st that's classified that they can't talk about. Don't know what it is. We don't know. We don't want to know. So 1st and 2nd, or it could be, is it 2nd, 3rd? Yeah, maybe not on Sunday. So 2nd and 3rd, so Monday and Tuesday. Watch. They'll do it on Monday. Watch. It's going to happen. They'll do it on Monday. I know it's going to happen. I can see it coming from a mile away. What did I always say? I said that when I switch to taking Mondays off, everyone's going to start launching on Monday. So JAXA yesterday launched a sounding rocket with detonation engines. Cool. Neat. I only have a certain amount of time, Raph, so I'm just gonna kind of go with the space article, with the space news stuff that we have now. So, we did get an undock yesterday of the Piers module here with Progress. What is it? MS-17. It has since burned up. It burned up yesterday afternoon with the Progress capsule. Piers is no longer anything. The reasons why the Russians uninstalled this module from their space station is because they're adding, in this spot where this thing was docked, they're adding Nauka, which is their multi-purpose science laboratory, which is already on orbit. It launched last week, and will take this spot on the nadir of Zvezda on the space station. Now, a couple of things here. It's important to note that the station is actually turned. It's actually turned. So the ISS usually stays with the truss segment parallel to the ground, kind of like this. They turned the ISS so this port aligns with the V-bar of the station, which is prograde retrograde, which is interesting. The whole ISS, which usually flies like this, is actually turned like that, and they jettisoned off the back, which is why we get this view here, which is actually pretty interesting. I'm wondering if they're going to keep the ISS in this configuration when they install Nauka, but we'll find out. Hey, Lavi, 61-month resub. It belonged in a museum. Yeah. Don't know if you covered this for Space News. Yeah, I can put that in. But yeah, the Piers module undocking signals a very, very good indication that Nauka, which a couple of folks speculated that there were some problems with it, is coming to the ISS. I'm fairly confident. This is what I said right after it launched. Everyone's like, "Oh no, it has problems. It has problems. It has problems." I'm like, "Nah, not really. It doesn't really have problems. They're just checkout is taking a little bit longer. They may have had some issues with the orbital thrusters, but whatever issues they had has been figured out. And Piers undocking from the space station is a very, very, very good indicator that Roscosmos has full confidence it's going to get to the space station in one piece. They wouldn't jettison that module if they weren't sure. So, yeah, good news all around. Anyway, Novus, I guess I could throw this one in here real quick. We covered it during GTA, but if you guys want to look, the launch escape system for the Artemis 1 mission has been attached to the Orion module. There it is, the Orion spacecraft in European service module. There's the launch escape motor up here with the RCS trash can at the top, as we like to call it. It has been installed here on the Orion capsule, and it will be used in the Artemis 1 test. There's Orion right there, and the European service module is below it. They still have to put the shell on. You can see parts of the shell over there. There is an aero shell for Orion, so this isn't exposed to aerodynamics. There's a shell that covers the capsule. They still need to do that, but after that, it's going to be ready to go for integration. They're also working, actually, while I'm here, while I'm working here, give me 1 second, I can find the picture. While I'm working here, the adapter for the Orion capsule to SLS is also being outfitted in the ISS, the old ISS processing lab, which is right here. There's the staging adapter for Orion that's designed to go on top of the ICPS. These little dispensers right there are a bunch of CubeSat dispensers that are secondary missions for the Artemis 1 program. It's important to look at this because you have, it's important to check this out because you have the, there's the payload dispensers here, and there's the Orion staging adapter, or OSA for short. But also, there's that over there in the ISS processing area, which is strange. Yeah, the cupola is actually facing retrograde right now, Shaw. They took the entire station. So if the station front is this way, so where Dragon's capsules would dock, they took it and they turned it 90 degrees face downwards. So the PMA-2 is facing towards the ground when they jettison the capsule, which is interesting. I didn't... Yeah, the ISS usually doesn't say that. Or usually doesn't do that, not say that. Alleviate. Hey, you rock, that's all. Thank you. So, there's a... it looks like an SNC inflatable module here in the ISS processing area. And also a Sierra Nevada or Sierra Space shooting star. I'm wondering what that is doing over there. And it looks like there's a mock-up of a Dream Chaser pressure vessel right there as well. Yeah, interesting. Is Orion reusable? Orion is reusable, yes. Mm-hmm. Yep, Orion's a reusable capsule. Yep. Check this out. Someone got super high-speed footage of my rocket lifting off. Oh, hot nozzle summer. All right, guys, I got to keep us on a schedule here, but let me see. Yeah, buddy! Nice. Very nice, Levy. Hot nozzle summer. Anyway, let's go with that one, and then with that one, and then with that one, and then kind of saving all the crappy stuff for the end here. So, JAXA posted this the other day. This is their H3 rocket, which is Japan's next generation carrier vehicle here. They're working on it here. Let's see what's going on. H3... Today's H3 rocket piece, first stage reverse VOS has been released. Please take a look. Okay. I don't know what that means, but all right. Oh. Yeah, there's a picture. And there, yeah, the H3 is basically an upgraded version of H2 that allows for a bunch of different uses here. You might want to read this. It's about EC. Europa Clipper. Oh, yeah, the source selection statement that I already have open. Yeah. Yeah, saving the crappy bits for last. Very cool. More flight hardware coming from Japan. It's cool because the H3 rocket shares semi-common lineage with the Delta IV rocket. They use very similar technologies, which is pretty cool. Anyway, ULA's bid was kind of weird. Yeah, I know. Let's discuss the rest of the space news first, guys. So, let's see. This is coming from Maxer. Today, tune in on July 30th for Arianespace's next Ariane 5 launch from Kourou, which includes the Maxer-built Star 1 D2. Oh, yeah, there's a picture of them encapsulating that inside of an Ariane 5 fairing. Ariane 5 has not flown in a little while, so that's cool that we're going to get a mission from them. It's a big satellite. Yeah, that's a big boy. What's the size of the H3 compared to other rockets and payload capacity? H3 is somewhere in the ballpark with a Delta IV, believe it or not. Yeah, it's a good little rocket. It can have up to 4 SRBs attached to it. Yeah, it's like I said, it's Hydrolox core, SRBs on the outside. So it's kind of like if you mixed like a Titan booster and a Delta IV. Yeah, it's a powerful little rocket. I mean, it's not little. It's, like I said, about Delta IV size and about the same comparability. Japan, with their Department of Defense, I don't know what they call it, uses a lot of U.S. derived stuff. I mean, go figure. So the payload capacity, because what I would assume that they're launching similar satellites into space that we are. It's probably derived. They're probably using similar spy satellites, etc., etc. So H3's payload capacity is very similar to Delta IV's or an NSSL style vehicle. So yeah, it's a good little rocket. Not little, but yep. Hey Vasia. I was audio only. Could you link me that interesting view from the ISS, please? Yeah. Yeah, sure. Give me 1 second. Look at this. So the station is aligned on they aligned the zenith and nadir on the V-bar of the station, Vasia. Look at where Earth is.
International Space Station.
So when Roscosmos took Progress 77, or I think it's MS-17, Progress off, the station, if it flies like this relative to the surface, it's 90 degrees nose down. So the nadir of the station is facing retrograde. Long story short, the ISS, if it flies like this, it's flying through the air like that, going this way. See what I'm talking about? Yeah, they tilted the whole thing forward for when they dumped Piers. I'll bet you they did that, Vasia, because if this thing is pointed down and they dumped it that way, Progress would have to use a lot of RCS to try and steer with Piers. This way, with Piers attached to it, they only need to use prograde and retrograde at this point, which is because the RCS is all off balance because you have an extra module attached, right? I'm guessing that's the reason. It's something. It's oftentimes something as simple as that. This thing, if it has thrusters at one end, that's designed to be balanced without this big module attached to the front, right? That now it can turn and it can translate and rotate, but with that thing attached to the front, really only forward and back is the only stable way, is the only stable axis. If you tried to translate with this and you tried to like strafe left and right, the thing would just spin out of control. So my guess is that they tilted the entire ISS, which they can do. The ISS is a spacecraft. You can absolutely do that. They tilted it to probably minimize Delta V or fuel burning for minimize Delta V usage from undocking for Progress, and also so it could deorbit it correctly. That's my guess. I mean, that makes sense. And also it provided us with a really, really, really dope freaking view. It's not something you see every day. Nothing ever beats the videos like this. Still amazing. Yeah, I know. It's pretty damn cool. Okay, next bit of news here, guys, is coming from MDA Space. I'm not familiar with this. MDA has been awarded a contract by the Canadian Space Agency for the design of the Gateway External Robotics Interfaces, or GERI for short. It's getting weird, Jerry! A key component of Canadarm3, which will be installed on the International Lunar Gateway. Oh. Nice. MDA used to be part of Maxar. Cool. All right. So we got more Gateway component contracts being awarded, which, as we get closer to 2024, makes Gateway not only does this show that it's a NASA priority, but it shows that it's being made. They're working towards it. Nothing screams more about commitment to a program than awarding the contracts to build equipment for said program. I.e., if you say you're going to go back to the moon, well, you better be having a moon rocket lying somewhere around, and NASA does right now. Let's see. I know. It's weird. Something that I always say if you're not too familiar with space or you're just getting into it or whatever is if everyone can talk. Talk is cheap. We plan on doing this. We plan on going back here. We plan on going to this place. That means nothing until you see flight hardware. When you see flight hardware, that's when you know it's real, right? Because no rocket science is expensive. No one's going to commit to building something if they weren't serious about it. That's the good rule. That's the good rule of thumb. But getting a contract for it is a good indicator that flight hardware is going to be built. So that's good news. Good news for Gateway. What will NASA be going to the moon for this time? Actually, they're going there to stay, Cameron. They're gonna, instead of just going there and walking around a little bit and driving a rover around, they're going to try and set up basically a logistics architecture to be able to go to the moon for a cheaper price and have a space station around the moon. A Gateway isn't really a space station though. It's more of a spacecraft that they built around the moon that's just sitting around the moon. But yeah. Ain't lying around anymore. She's standing up now. That's right. What am I looking at here? So this happened last week. It's a bit loud, but it's awesome. Okay. It looks like a Pack 50. Is this MAKS, dude? That's what it looks like. Cool. Neat. All right. Just link him Jim preaching. Yeah, right. That looks like a Pack 50. Or what is that? What is SU-57 or something? Check the post Elon laugh emote. Ah, nice. Funny. Okay, show me the money. That's right. Talk is cheap, rockets speak. That's right. Okay, so, what else do we got here? So this is coming from Peter DeSilding here. Let's see. Rocket Lab has doubled prices since 2016 and only now is making money on launches. Its $4.1 billion valuation IPO with VACQ to provide badly needed cash, but how much pricing power is left? Oh, interesting. Oh. Huh. I'm still more of a fan of an SU-35 next if you really want my honest opinion. I think the SU-35 is about as good as you can get for an air superiority fighter. I'd put the SU-35 right up there with the F-15 and the F-22. Yeah, it's Chad tier, and then the Eurofighter as well. It's just every once in a while, you break the mold when you build a design. Now, don't get me wrong. The U.S. did that with the F-22, but the Russians did it with the Su-35. That thing's unbelievable for what it does. It's beautiful, beautiful aircraft. Okay, so it's interesting. I mean, a lot of folks know that if you want to gain market share like this, you're going to operate at a loss. This is just the price of entering business, dude. So say you open up a restaurant, right? You open up a restaurant in your town, and there's 3 other restaurants down the street. What are you going to do? You undercut them. You undercut them to gain business. If they sell French fries, if one guy sells French fries for $5 and the other guy sells them for $3, you sell them for $2. And that selling them for $2 gets people to come to your business because you're cheaper than everybody else, right? And then you gain what's called market share. So the first couple of years with a restaurant, you're not operating at high profitability. The same thing, I mean, that same analogy can be applied to rockets. Rocket Lab wanted to enter the market 5 years ago, and they did that by underselling everybody. Not underselling, they undercharged everyone, and they operated at a net loss, but now that they have market share, they're able to scale up. And that's why Neuron is happening. What do we do with the F-35? The F-35 is... You know, you put a Kappa next to that, RJ, but I've never heard anybody say that the F-35 is a bad aircraft. I only hear people say that, oh, there's funding, and I understand how defense procurement works, so I'm going to post about it on Twitter. I've never heard anybody that flies an F-35 say it's a bad aircraft. But who knows? Anyway, interesting thing there. I don't know what that means, human, but all right. Isn't it not as good as the X-32 though, or at least the X-32 would have been? Well, they chose the F-35 over the X-32 for a good reason. Guys, I'm telling you, F-35s are scary. What they can do. It's not just an air superiority fighter. I mean, okay, so here, all right. Listen, you know, I'm not really for like crazy overspending and stuff. Well, kind of with SLS I am, but the F-35 is designed. And once again, I don't want to get too sidetracked here. We got to keep going. Hey, Franco, thanks to the 40, man. I appreciate it. The F-35 is a plane that's designed to do everything that the Marine Corps needs, everything that the Air Force needs, and everything that the Navy needs. You try engineering a plane that does all of those things. The F-35 off the assembly line can literally be, it has a modular system, and you can make it hover, or you can make it into an air superiority fighter. It's a Lego kit for advanced fighter planes. You try engineering something like that across three service branches. You try doing that with interchangeable parts between branches. You try engineering something that complicated. Guys, the stuff that the F-35 can do will blow your freaking mind. And listen, I don't know anything that you guys don't know about it, but what I do know is that, okay, all right, Protoss carrier. Any StarCraft players around? The Protoss carrier? What does the carrier do in StarCraft? The Protoss. It sends out a bunch of little things, right? And then those things just eat stuff up. The F-35 does that in real life. The F-35 does that in real life. I'm serious. They're working to interface. You played StarCraft? Oh, yeah. Yeah, oh yeah. And StarCraft Brood War, dude. Oh yeah. Pilch, your boy wasn't always just a big nerd. I used to, see, my problem is that I played a lot of video games in high school. I played a lot of video games and I never did my homework. Which is funny now because it's the opposite. But you get the idea. So the F-35 can literally do that. It can interface with drones and send swarms of drone aircraft. It doesn't deploy it out of it. It doesn't do that. But it'll send, it can work with XQ-58s. So, these things. The F-35 can interface with this thing. Alright? And one F-35 can operate a squadron of these. And it uses Starlink to communicate. I'm serious. In order to get all those, the bandwidth for all those drones to operate in unison, right? The Starlink. It uses Starlink to communicate with the drones. The F-35 can send swarms of drones at things, which is scary. Yeah. I want an F-35 Lego set, not the actual Lego set. Not the actual Lego set, the big boy Lego set. Yeah. Yeah, F-35 is some, like, nightmare-inducing stuff. I'm telling you. And this is, guys, this is just what we know about. That's just what we know. I don't even want to know what we don't know. You know what I mean? Dude, that plane is nuts. I've seen one fly around. I've seen an F-35B fly around. And that's the one that can, that's the Marine Corps variant that can take off and land vertically. That plane is nuts. It looks, dudes, it looks like an X-Wing. Like it has the maneuverability of an X-Wing flying around. You see it flying around, right? And then the thing just kind of turns around, comes in. It'll, like, I saw one land at the Miramar Air Show 2 years ago. It was flying around. It was doing all these maneuvers. It cobra'd. It was, like, upside down. It was doing all this crazy stuff. And then, like, at the last second, it looks like it's coming towards the ground. And then the thing just went, whoop. It kind of just came in, and the guy went and just dropped it, like just landed it. It looked like a hummingbird almost. Like it was nuts. Like, you know, we could sit here, we could say, oh, the F-35 is over expensive. Am I right? You don't understand what that plane can do. It is a certified death machine. Kids will have pictures of that thing on their wall in the future. Well, they already do now. Remember how, you know, when I was growing up, I had F-14s and F-15s. Well, F-4 Phantoms and F-14s, because I like F-4s. Yeah, no, this thing can... it's not even a swarm of drones, guys. It's a freaking squadron of drones. Like, what are you going to do about that? What are you going to do against that? What if you tell them to go bomb a target? You're not stopping all of them. You need some kind of cluster. It's ridiculous, dudes. I'm telling you. But anyway. Yeah, yes, it's really cool. It's really some cutting edge stuff. Anyway, I don't want to keep going. Let's switch to the next bit of news. So the source selection statement for Europa Clipper came out. NASA released their evaluation criteria for putting the Europa Clipper for awarding the Europa Clipper mission to Falcon Heavy, and why they did it here. They do this for transparency purposes. I'm interested in picking through certain parts, but oh, they redacted a little bit. Fundraiser when? 59 F4 Phantom, 2.9 million. Oh, jeez. Nah, I'm good. I'm just trying to look through. So it looks like Source Evaluation Board. All right. I'm trying to see what the contenders are here. Let's see. This is their criteria for how they graded things. Their technical approach, management approach, SBU, past performance, and then obviously price. They cut out a lot of things. So it looks like ULA bid for it as well. It's on page 14. Yeah, okay. On June 8th, 2021, Europa Clipper, nice. Europa Clipper Launch Services, SEB, presented the results and evaluations. During the presentation, there was a full briefing on the procurement process and was given detailed evaluation materials concerning the proposals submitted for the Europa Clipper Launch Service competition. The SEB members were questioned on the material presented and carefully considered the detailed mission sustainability findings, past performance innovation, and pricing data when presented by the SEB. Additionally, solicitations considered the views of key senior personnel. I don't know why this is in the first person here. I'm trying to make it not in the first person because it sounds like I'm part of this. Additionally, we solicited the personnel within the Kennedy Space Center leadership and launch services, an LSP, a launch services proposal? Launch services program. That's NASA LSP. Okay. All right, let's just get to the good stuff. The SEB identified 9 weaknesses and 1 strength in SpaceX's mission suitability framework. The resultant weaknesses captured by the SEB represent unique challenges for the mission. Despite this weakness, the Europa Clipper request for proposal allows for award without discussions. I agreed with the SEB's findings, and I find that the weakness identified in this area of the proposal presented minimum risk to acceptable execution of this contract. SpaceX proposed a common launch vehicle configuration, which has had 3 successful flights and does not require vehicle upgrades to meet mission trajectory requirements. These are appreciable mitigations for technical and schedule risk. Therefore, I agree with the SEB's assessment for mission suitability factor. Yeah, I get it, Lavi. Mm-hmm. Your Boston is showing, yeah, trying not to. I considered the SEB's evaluation of past performance and their explanation of how I considered each element for the past performance stated for the RFP. Accordingly, I agree with SEB's level of confidence rating of high for past performance. SpaceX's past performance is very highly pertinent to this acquisition in terms of size, content, complexity, and with relevant experience in launch service contracts, conditions, and scope, providing launch services on the proposed CLVC and other launch vehicles. SpaceX's past performance citations demonstrate overall very effective performance in the areas of quality, schedule, and management. Though they have only a few launches for this vehicle configuration, it's Falcon Heavy. Proposed for this mission, their demonstrated repeated successful launches across all configurations provide me with a high confidence in their technical capabilities. Price evaluation considered whether the proposed prices are reasonable for the launch service described in the proposal. SpaceX was cheaper. Yeah, I'm calling it now. Let's see. At the presentation, the SEB explained its analysis of the proposal in detail, including the assessment of the proposed launch vehicle, and its prices in relation to the independent government cost estimate, current market conditions, previously completed prices on the NLS-2 contracts, and other vehicles in the same class. SpaceX adequately supported the proposed prices for its vehicle mission unique services in the current market. I find the proposal offers a price that is fair and reasonable for the launch service proposed. I understand the relative order of importance of the evaluation factors specified in the RFP, and that I have the ability to trade off the award selection when it may be in the best interest of the government to consider award to other than the lowest price offerer where mission sustainability and past performance are more important than price. In the present circumstances, only one proposal has been deemed acceptable, and that proposal has the lowest price. SpaceX. Accordingly, after considering the above-cited criteria, the findings of the SEB, and me exercising my independent judgment, I hereby select SpaceX as the best value for the award of the contract for the Europa Clipper launch service. Page 8. There's some problems with Vulcan. The problems with Vulcan are that it hasn't flown yet. I'm telling you now. Whatever technical criteria they have, it's just the problem is it hasn't flown yet. People on NSF are guessing that ULA either offered ACES, Centaur refueling, or Vulcan Centaur Heavy in the redacted statement on page 8, the significant weakness. Okay.
Discovery, go at throttle.
Good mood, James, 51-month resub. The SEB rated ULS proposal as poor under this subfactor. The SEB identified the following deficiency and significant weakness described below, and weakness presented at a summary level. How long does it take for Falcon Heavy to bring it to Europa? 2030. It's going to take 6 years over Thunder. It's what I talked about previously. SLS could get it there in 3. Falcon Heavy, because of characteristic energy, is going to take twice as long. Yeah. SLS would have gotten it there in probably 2028, 2026, 2028, somewhere in there. But if I'm going to call this completely fair, we don't know if there would have been an SLS core available in 2024 to launch this then in the first place. But on the other hand, if they weren't sure that there was an SLS core ready in 2024, they could be dang sure that there would have been one ready for 2026, right? For the launch window in 2026. In which case, even though you launch 2 years later and SLS takes 2 to 3 years to launch, you still make it there a couple years in advance. If it launches a couple years in advance, if it launches in the transfer window in 2026, or well, not even really the transfer window. If it launches in 2026, it would still get there in 2029, still a year earlier. And it would be better to scale your operational cost around when a launch vehicle is available per NASA's Systems Engineering Handbook. So yeah, just stuff to consider, I suppose. Long story short, the longer mission could end up costing more money. Even though you saved money on the launch vehicle, because it's just coasting there for long periods of time, it could actually end up being more expensive. I've talked about this in detail. I'm not going to bore you. Let's go back over here. I mean, once again, Europa Clipper is scheduled to launch in 2024 on a Falcon Heavy, which is probably going to happen. SpaceX can make a Falcon Heavy in that time. Yeah, the Falcon Heavy will be fully expendable because they need all the Delta V to get it there. Europa Clipper launching on Falcon Heavy will use an MEGA transfer, or a Mars-Earth gravity assist. Bouncing off of Mars and gravity assist, not bouncing off, gravity assisting off Mars, and then coming around, gravity assisting off Earth, and then go to out to Europa from there. If you launched it on SLS, it could be a direct insertion, a direct home and transfer to Europa, which takes way less time, but more Delta V. But that's the difference between Falcon Heavy and SLS. The characteristic energy, especially at long distances, it favors SLS in terms of performance by a long shot. Falcon Heavy, because it's a Carolox upper stage, and once again, not saying it's a bad vehicle. It's a great vehicle. Falcon Heavy's sweet. I saw the first Falcon Heavy fly. It was awesome. Seeing the tool boosters come back and land is something that I'll never forget. And I'm not trying to harp on Falcon Heavy. It's just when we're talking about deep space probe insertion with expendable launch vehicles, right? Because reusability isn't happening here. It's going to launch on a fully expendable Heavy. SLS whoops Falcon Heavy's tail in terms of performance by a pretty significant margin. However, it is way more expensive to launch. But Falcon Heavy is going to take a longer time to get there. That longer time to get there means you just shifted launch costs over to operational costs, and it could end up pushing in the end. It's just something to consider. It's going to Europa's orbit from what I understand, GravShark, but I'd have to read more about the mission profile. It's going to, either way, it's going to take 6 years to get to the Jovian moons. Or get to the Jovian system, I guess. Not system, but you understand what I'm saying. Yeah, let's see. Why does it say ULS? I'm confused. Is it United Launch Services? I'm confused. That's ULA's, yeah, United Launch Services. It's ULA's subsidiary for launch contracts. Got it. On page 2. Thank you. Actually, here, I want to read this first paragraph. The fiscal year 2021 Consolidated Appropriations Act, signed into law on December 27, 2020, levied a requirement for NASA to utilize SLS for Europa Clipper, if it was available, and if torsional loading analysis confirmed by Europa Clipper's appropriateness. Torsional analysis confirmed Europa Clipper's appropriateness for SLS. If these conditions could not be met, the administrator was to conduct a full and open competition, not limited to the launch vehicles listed in NASA Launch Services NLS-2 contracts. NASA determined both the above-mentioned conditions for SLS were not met, and a full and open competition for Europa was appropriate for Europa Clipper. Interesting. Where is it? All right, here. The SEB rated ULS's proposal as poor under this subfactor. ULS's proposal received the lowest overall mission sustainability score. The SEB identified 1 deficiency, 4 significant weaknesses, and 12 weaknesses in the proposal. There were no significant strengths or strengths identified. The following is a summary of the SEB's evaluation of ULS's proposal under the 3 mission sustainability factors. Some info on the orbit. The spacecraft in orbit around Jupiter will make about 40 to 50 close passes over Europa, shifting its flight path for each flyby to soar over a different location so that it eventually scans the entire moon. Neat. Interesting. Yeah, spoiler alert. The ability to achieve a first flight of the vehicle block upgrades prior to the L-12 months, a requirement for Europa Clipper launch services, is all block upgrades, whether for the fleet or for the Europa Clipper specific, that are not considered common launch vehicle configurations, shall have at least 1 flight no later than 12 months earlier before the scheduled launch. This includes the booster stage, upper stage booster engine, upper stage engine, avionics architecture, fairing. In order to meet the Europa Clipper mission requirements... This is a material failure of the proposal to meet a critical risk reduction requirement for the Class A NASA flagship mission. In addition, the proposal does not identify as mission unique services, MUS. However, these meet the definition of the MUS, and therefore the proposed approach prevents the government approval of the design through mission-specific design review processes. Finally, the proposal did not define the BE-4 engine block version proposed. Booster engine design or operational changes that drive requalification create an increased risk of schedule delays. Yeah, clicking on a didn't do anything. Significant weakness. ULS's proposal that through the Vulcan Centaur would be able to meet the Europa Clipper mass requirements. However, the proposal does not provide substantial information that describes the performance benefit for Europa Clipper has a mass of about 6,065 kilograms. That's about what is that? 13,000 pounds, give or take. And the current version of the Vulcan Centaur AB is approximately 5,000 kilograms of performance capability to the Europa Clipper targets. Additionally, the proposal does not describe the performance reserve methodology. Lack of detail on performance reserve methodology and vehicle upgrades with undefined performance benefits leads to uncertainty in the Vulcan Centaur mass to orbit capability. Long story short, what this means is because Vulcan hasn't flown yet, they can't be sure about if it has the performance capability that's being proposed, so they said, nah, never mind. I'll bet you... okay, here's the thing. The reason why all of that was redacted, guys, is because, well, Vulcan is an NSSL contract. If they tried to say what was wrong with it in this, it could reveal classified information for NSSL launches. You got to remember that ULA Tory Bruno tailored United Launch Alliance for Department of Defense payloads. So whatever that redacted thing is probably that whatever this identified as a weakness is probably because ULA said, yeah, whatever, we're going to scale for the contracts that actually make us the most revenue, right? These changes probably reveal some information about when Vulcan is supposed to fly and what systems are still being buttoned up. Tory Bruno has said multiple times on Twitter that they're scaling to their payloads for the customer, i.e., Vulcan's development is kind of working around its first national security mission for the most part. And any other missions that it's going to fly before that, believe it or not, ULA is in a really weird position where they will have the vehicle. The vehicle's going to basically be ready, but the folks that are making the payloads for Vulcan are not finished. They're not going to be done on time. Dream Chaser is one example of that. And ULA needs to fly these missions to certify the vehicle for national security payloads. That's how they do it. That was ULA's plan up until now, using commercial missions to show that the vehicle can work before they put like a multi-billion-dollar spy satellite on it, for instance. So, long story short, guys, Vulcan isn't ready. It's not ready because it's being scaled for NSSL contracts. That's when it might not be ready by the time by L-12. It might not be fully certified by 2023, which once again, that does kind of correlate with what ULA is talking about with Vulcan on their payloads not being ready. Vulcan is supposed to fly this year, and it could fly this year, but the payloads that ULA wants to put on there to certify Vulcan for NSSL missions aren't ready, and that's kind of throwing a monkey wrench into things. No, it's not even the engines. Blue Origin is scaling to ULA's needs. It's not even, where are my engines, Jeff? I know that's funny and it's a meme and everybody likes to make that into a meme, but it's not even that. The payloads aren't ready for Vulcan. The BE-4s will be ready on time. But that comment on the BE-4's specs, the proposal did not define the BE-4 engine block version proposed. So what? What's your point, Forge? How can you know what the vehicle performance is with blocks of BE-4s if you haven't flown the test flights yet? They probably have a good idea what the designs are for, but development of the rocket is still an iterative process, guys. That's like, why do you guys do this? But the BE-4, what are you talking about, dude? If this same type of proposal happened with Starship right now, they'd be saying the same things about Raptors, and nobody would be batting an eye. Everybody would say, oh, well, the reason why they're not sure about the engine block for Raptors is because SpaceX is iterating so fast. They're not done with development, dudes. That's all that's saying. You're reading way too much into it. Anyway, interesting thing going on there. I'm sure people will read too much into it and report it as such because that's what we do. But yeah, interesting. That torsional load stuff is very interesting to me. Yeah, torsional load stuff. I don't understand why you'd have torsional load with Europa Clipper, but not with Orion. That leads me to believe, though, that SLS is in the same kind of boat, dude. They don't fully understand the torsional load that will happen. But see, like, here's the thing: Europa Clipper weighs 6,000 kilos, right? Orion weighs 25,000 kilos. What are we talking about here? So shouldn't Orion theoretically put more torsional load on the stack? Torsional load is twisting, meaning that the rocket will want to twist on its way up. So it'll want to do this. So like the boosters will want to turn. That's what torsional load is. If they're worried about torsional load on Europa Clipper and not worried about it with Orion, because I've heard nothing about torsional load with the Artemis 1 mission, that tells me if they're worried about one but not worried about the other, that tells me that they don't have that data yet. Maybe it's lack of load. I don't understand how having a lighter payload in this regard core can put less torsional load on the vehicle. Are we talking about torsional load on the payload, or are we talking about torsional load on the vehicle here? Like, it's very interesting it's a very interesting thing there. Why are we talking about torsional load on... Are we talking about torsional load on SLS, or are we talking about it on the payload? Maybe it's way more fragile. Possibly because Orion was meant to be on Ares 1 with much higher loads and vibration from a single SRB. Also because the Orion European Service Module is a much heavier payload, i.e. a damper. Interesting. Yeah, I guess, Novus. From what I heard with a grain of salt, the Europa Clipper team requested extremely tight load factors, like light even for a cargo launch vehicle. Orion has headroom due to being made from the bad Ares 1 vibration environment. So, if that's the case, you're basically setting up SLS to fail from the start. That's... This thing reeks. Jan Robinson. Representative Brian Babin has asked for the torsional load analysis that NASA used to reject flying the Europa Clipper on SLS. It's a devastating indictment of the excessive shaking during an SLS launch. The excessive shaking for a small payload. Please check the first paragraph on page 9. They're repeating your words. Okay. Dynamic uncertainty factor on limit loads. ULS proposed the dynamic uncertainty factor for Vulcan Centaur spacecraft. For the Vulcan Centaur spacecraft center of gravity limit load factors, which has not achieved a first flight yet. Applying a DUF dynamic uncertainty factor of only for an unflowed launch vehicle increases the risk of the Europa Clipper spacecraft center of gravity limit load factors, which Europa Clipper spacecraft center of gravity limit load factors will be exceeded, and ULS does not provide sufficient rationale for why a DUF was appropriate. Since the Europa Clipper spacecraft is being manufactured, there are no opportunities for spacecraft design changes to correct for a change in center of gravity limit load factors should they be required after Vulcan Centaur's first flight. Therefore, there is an appreciable risk to achieving a 2024 planned launch period. Lavi, I'm reading. Interesting. I just don't. So, okay. This leads me to believe if Europa Clipper has design constraints that mean it's susceptible to torsional load on SLS, but the whole reason Europa Clipper even became a thing was because John Culbertson sold it with SLS as a package deal when he tried to get it done. The brainchild, the politician that was kind of behind Europa Clipper in the first place. If they're going to propose that type of thing going on and then fully understand that SLS cannot handle that torsion, that doesn't make any sense, guys. That doesn't make sense. That makes no sense at all. Why would you do that from the start? The only thing... No, this doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. You don't design a payload that was originally supposed to fly on SLS that doesn't meet SLS design requirements. We don't design vehicles for payloads. Oftentimes, payloads are designed for vehicles because you want to utilize existing launch infrastructure, right? Like how all the ISS modules are shaped like the shuttle's payload bay. Pretty good example, right? Something's wrong here. That doesn't make any sense. Guys, I can't put my finger on it. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. You don't present a payload with SLS as a package deal and then make the payload not be able to meet data on the rocket that it's supposed to launch on. That doesn't make any sense. It might be a facade excuse so SLS seems more viable. No. I mean, well, no, I'm not. I don't know, Phil. Maybe. No is not the right way to say it. Guys, you know what this sounds like? And once again, if you think I'm digging too hard or reading too much into it, you tell me. Just tell me. Hear me out. So you're telling me that they designed Europa Clipper originally for SLS, and Europa Clipper was not... SLS can't launch Europa Clipper because of torsional load limits. Europa Clipper can't launch on SLS for torsional load limits, even though it was designed and originally conceived to fly on SLS from the start. So you're telling me you designed a payload for a rocket that it's designed to launch on that it can't launch on? That doesn't make sense. What I think is going on is that they don't know the torsional load limits on SLS. You're going to get that information from Artemis 1. That's what that tells me. They have ideas on what the torsional load limits could be, but they don't have them yet. The reason why they don't have them, SLS hasn't launched. NASA is using a waterfall style engineering. Basically, they have all the math and all the testing as much as they can get done on the ground without actually flying anything done. And then when they fly it, they correlate that to the testing, right? And then you have an operational lifter if your testing data and flight data match. They didn't match on Starliner during OFT1, so they had to fly it again, right? The design team was planning it to be launched on SLS. No, that's what it was designed to launch from the start. Hey, Bascus, what's up? Was there data, though, back then? I don't see why there wouldn't be, Phil. There's always theoretical analysis. That doesn't make any sense. You don't design a payload to launch on a rocket that the rocket can't launch. That makes no sense whatsoever. That tells, dude, look, I'd like to think that I'm getting a good idea of how NASA works. That's not, dude, NASA would not make that kind of mistake. They really wouldn't. That's such a, and I know it's, you'd say, well, EJ, you don't know that, right? And yeah, that's true. At the end of the day, I don't. But also at the same time, look, that's enough of a glaring mistake. You're telling me that nobody connected the dots there. No. That's not NASA. This isn't some freaking crime drama or something, right? No, that doesn't sound like NASA. All this fits. Everything here fits with a scenario of them not knowing what SLS's torsional load is. You're not going to design a payload for a rocket, right? That can't launch said payload. That doesn't make any sense. However, it also prevents significant risk, right? It presents significant risk to the mission itself, right? If you don't know what that variable is. So if you don't know what it is, you'd say that this could be a potential risk and that you'd go somewhere else. I'm not saying that SLS has bad vibration problems. I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. It's much more likely that they don't know what it is yet because SLS is late because it hasn't launched yet. That's much more likely as to what's going on. SLS was supposed to be canceled by now. Isn't torsional load like twisting? Why would there be twisting forces on a payload? Aerodynamics from the fairing that it's designed to go in, Sawyer, which I still don't understand. No, I do. The fairing is susceptible to twisting forces because the air is pushing up against it and the fairing is going to twist, right? Because there's no crossbar connecting it, right? So it's going to twist. If you push down on it, it's going to cause torsional load. And that torsional load could make a vibration environment that could shake the payload in ways that we don't want. Any chance they were planning to fly it on 1B? So you're saying it was designed for SLS, but it got ahead of SLS testing. Yeah, Pilch, pretty much.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Hey, Kem, what's going on? Horizon, 25-month resub, thank you. Europa Clipper was designed for SLS 1B. Yep. I'm calling it now, guys. Calling it now. Europa Clipper is gonna it's gonna cost James Webb style money. Yeah, I'm gonna call that one now. All this analysis that we've been doing over the last couple of days, reading into why it doesn't launch on SLS, torsional load limits, why it launched on this, why it didn't launch on that, is just telling me that they've changed a lot of what they've strayed a lot from what Europa Clipper was originally planned to do, and because they've strayed so far and because they strayed so far and went with a commercial launch option to reduce risk during launch because you don't know what the load limits are on SLS and it's hard to scale a payload for it, right? When you don't know what the torsional load limit is, right? It means that you decrease risk for the launch environment, but you're increasing risk because the operational cost of the program over time is going to go through the roof. I'm telling you, the Europa Clipper is going to end up costing as much as James Webb in the end. I'm saying this right now on July 27th, 2021. And if someone wants to come back and check this, years from now, first of all, hi from the past. If someone wants to check this 5 years from now, talk to me. Let's see if I'm right. Oh, good. Nauka's clearly home. Yeah, man. Covered it. Yeah, Ken, we talked about it already. It's good stuff. Please check page 3. Design updates. Hello from 5 seconds into the future. What's up, Pulse? I really don't have time to go into too much of a thing here, guys. We're running out of time. Hey, Ismic. How you doing? I'm good, man. I'm good. There's always baseline loads from an analysis standpoint. They might get refined over time, but it's still a baseline. No, this whole thing tells me that they don't want to put a... It's risk. It's risk reduction, dude. Risk reduction is why they wanted to put it on heavy. That whole... SLS is behind schedule. And it's hilarious because, you know... We know the reasons why it's behind schedule. You know, like... That's... Yeah, no, I'm telling you guys, this is going to cost as much as James Webb. Europa Clipper by the end of the program will have sunk billions into this. Oh yeah. Dude, I'm calling it now. Yeah. Let's see if the operational cost ends up exceeding 800 million. I'll bet you it does. I'm just saying that the idea that there's not loads available isn't correct. They've got those numbers for sure from their analysis. Okay, well, all right, Novus, if we play off that, okay, cool. So I might be reading too much into it. So if we play off that analysis, why would they design Europa Clipper outside of the baseline capability in the first place? All in all, do you think NASA made a bad choice on their flagship mission? No, it's just risk. They're just retiring risk, but in they paid for a little bit of extra safety for the mission, but in having that cost take away for that little bit of extra safety, you're going to end up paying millions of dollars more because the mission lasts way longer. Like way longer. And once again, the whole problem with this is that because SLS was notoriously behind. And the whole reason why SLS was so behind schedule is because they never gave it a deadline to do anything in the first 10 years of the damn program. Yeah, this, savings now to pay later. Wonder how many times we've seen that. Lavi, this is how saving $30 billion happens. Yep. I don't know, some engineering thought went through it, though. It'd be interesting to see any design decisions the Europa Clipper team made. Yeah, Novus. Novus, okay. Can I ask you a straight question? All right. Here's what I'm going to ask. All right. Look, with that, okay. So, Europa Clipper always was designed from SLS from the start. That's the whole mission. Okay. Once again, John Culbertson worked with JPL and he worked with JSC to, you know, get this mission on the books. He pushed really hard for it, for a science mission. I mean, he did a good job. Now, with that being said, don't you think something like this would have manifested itself a little while ago? Like, why are we just hearing about this now? Like, I refuse to believe that they would make that big of a mistake. That doesn't make any sense. You know, you design the payload and you have SLS and everything, right? And then somebody just came across and said, "Oh, wow, the torsional load doesn't line up at all." That doesn't make any sense. It was first hinted at around 2019. It's a political answer. Well, shh. Hold on. Well, all these changes, Phil. Excuse me. That's the space news yawns. Maybe the decision to change it from Block 1 to Block 1B messed with it. Well, all these decisions, Phil, definitely contributed. Dude, every time you do something like that, you change the upper stage of the vehicle that you're going to launch on, or you change it to a whole separate vehicle. Cost goes up. It's the responsibility of the design team for the craft to work within the bounds of whatever environments NASA gives them, though. Whatever interface documents they have. Yeah, Novus, that doesn't make any sense. Is planned to launch on SLS only because there was no Falcon Heavy until 2018. Opinion, you put NASA too much on a pedestal. Don't forget James Webb problems, the asteroid redirect plans, and all the SLS, the $30 billion. NASA's smart, but they make dumb decisions from time to time. No, Raph, what I'm saying is that someone's making dumb decisions for them. So Hellfish might not be that far off in that regard. That doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. It doesn't make sense at all. And Raph, that's why I said I'm calling it now. It's going to be like James Webb. I'm not putting too much faith in NASA. I'm saying that this thing that doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make sense. That kind of stuff doesn't happen. Not in payload planning like that. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, let's keep going. So, this is coming from the NASA spaceflight forums. What's this discussion here? This is from the SpaceX production updates. Okay. Sources close to SpaceX have indicated that Elon ordered several hundred Hawthorne and Florida employees to temporarily relocate to Starbase in an effort to get Booster 4 and Ship 20 completed on the orbital platform by August 5th. Yeah, good luck with that. In addition, they also seek to have enough capability with the ground service equipment for the Booster 4 and Ship 20 tests. The activity of Booster 3 was stopped and will stay that way. Employees must fly or drive to Starbase, although the selection criteria employed or specific business requirements for the surge are unknown. Expect lodging and hospitality to grow, blah, blah. All this coincides with the fact that for the past 2 weeks, Elon Musk's private jet has been seen flying every day from Florida to Starbase to bring employees. It was also recently known that SpaceX reserved on July 9th 5 new aircraft registration numbers, 310, 5, which are not known what type of aircraft will be used. Among the hypotheses are that it will be for more planes to transport workers and for also helicopters that will be used for platforms in the sea where Starship will be launched in the future. Holy crap. It's literally the next tweet that I have open. So, Elon's jet took off from Titusville going to Brownsville. It's employees, so some guy was able to take a picture. So, Elon is literally chartering a fleet of private, or buying a fleet of private jets at this point to be able to move his employees around more quickly between Texas, Florida, and California. Holy crap, dude. Link to the NSF thread. Yeah, sure. SpaceX is literally operating their own airline. Holy crap. Yeah, Buck, I mean, once again, good on him for not saying, hey, yeah, you need to report to Boca in, 4 hours. Frick you. He said, no, dude, I really want this thing finished. I really want this to get done. I'll fly you there. I'll freaking fly you there on my own private jet. I don't care. Just another non-existent terminal? Ooh. That's more common than you think. Several companies have shuttles to transport folks between key locations. Yeah. Practice for Starship? Yeah, maybe. Can't say he isn't putting his money where his mouth is. Yep. We'll show it tomorrow, Phil. Yeah, Tessa, maybe. Who knows? This was also added. A Chick-fil-A serving stand at Starbase. Nice. SpaceX employees will have the benefit of eating the Lord's chicken. Dang, those chicken tenders are just so dang tasty. What were the tail numbers again? November 310 Sierra X-Ray, November 502 Sierra X-Ray, November 812 Sierra X-Ray, I would assume November 840 Sierra X-Ray, and November 928 Sierra X-Ray. The Lord's chicken. It's the Lord's chicken, man. I don't think I'd be happy with being relocated from a city. It's temporary, Pulse, but yeah, very interesting. I suppose, dude, if I mean, if Elon's gonna pay you, if he's gonna pay me and provide service there, I'd be cool with it. They'd be like, okay, EJ, we need you. You're in Boston. We need you to report to Florida immediately. Okay, that's fine. Fly me there. I'm not paying for a plane ticket. You need me there. I don't need you there. If the employees are flying on the private jet, flying on a chartered jet, dude, and, you know, there's room and board there that SpaceX is providing, if it's on SpaceX's dime, sure, man. Yeah, absolutely. I'll do that. Yeah, sure. Pay me. Just make sure, yeah, absolutely. I'd be like, yeah, let's go. It's going to be sweet. I mean, seriously, dude, there's footage right here of SpaceX employees getting on Elon's private jet out of Titusville Airport. So, if I get an email, like, that it's like, yeah, go to the Titusville Airport, there's going to be a private jet waiting, you get room and board for 3 months, all expense paid by the company. Sure. I'd go. Yeah, why not? All right, sweet. Because, you know, working on the job site, working out of Boca Chica's hazard pay, dude. All day. You're working in a hard hat environment. It's hazard pay. Oh, yeah, I'd rake that in. Hell yeah, I'd rake that in. It's a hell of a thing to put on a resume in the future. Yeah, I worked on the Starship program. Yeah, I was there for the first launch. I helped put the booster together. Yeah. If you're going to pay me and provide room and board, sure. Why not? Yeah, do we get to drink beer at the high bay? I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to as long as it's not on company hours. Like I said, talk about putting your money where your mouth is, dude. That's pretty freaking cool. Like, dude, generally like, if I see an employer say, no, you have to be here, like, usually they're like, yeah, you have to be here and you'll get a rental car and you'll get reimbursed. Nah, SpaceX is just like, nah, just go. You can fly on the private jet, it's fine. Like I act and said, that happens all the time. That's cool, man. Good on him for taking care of the guys that work for him, dude. I appreciate that. I really do. Unfortunately, it means that Boca workers are going to be pulling some hard hours. Well, it's only for a week. Well, let's be real. It's not only for a week. He said he wanted to get that done by the 5th. Nah, that's not happening. There is no way that pad gets operational by the 5th. I will be very, 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 very impressed if it is. Straight up the same model as oil rig companies use it. Fly out people, pay them to stay, and pay them for their work. Yep. I've flown as the only passenger on a 737 when the jet was down. Cool. Yeah, interesting, Forge. Fun fact. Corning Glass Company operates their own Challenger 850 that ferries employees from Corning, New York to Morristown, New Jersey. Yeah, that's cool, man. I'm happy that they're doing that, you know. No more frequent flyer miles from my SpaceX employees. Oh, yeah. I'm talking G5. G5. Now, let me get this straight. You want me to stop what I'm doing here and just move out to the desert in Texas alone for 3 months in a G5? Yes, precisely. A G5 airplane. Yes. And lots of money. Playa. Boop. Should I gotta have them apple bottom jeans, boots with the fur. Sorry. Tuggernuts, it's Pecker here. Enraged. I got you the TiVo! I know you want the goods. Welcome to the goodie room. Are we going to talk about the high bay Elon mentioned on Twitter? Yeah, they're building a VAB core, from what I can understand. They're building a vehicle assembly building next to the high bay. The high bay is going to be very, 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 very quickly known as not the high bay. Yeah. Check this out. Let me find it on the Twitterers. By the way, SpaceX has 2 jets. One of them just landed in Boca coming from California. I know. I clicked on the thing that you linked. Yeah, that showed exactly that. Yeah, I got you, man. Oh, yeah. Also, SpaceX has built 100 Raptors, by the way. I call dibs on RB-26. Okay? A VAB in Texas is the most American thing I've ever think of. Yep. Let's go. Whoop. Ooh. 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 Hmm. Ooh, that's awkward. Okay, here we go. Construction starts soon on a much larger high bay just north of the current high bay. It's only a little bit taller, but much bigger base and 2 gantry cranes that run full span. Yeah, this is gonna be. He's building an assembly line for starships. That's what this guy is doing. How much you want to bet that that high bay has one entrance on one side and an entrance on the other? Yeah. It's a wide bay. Yeah. So, yeah. How much you want to bet that, like I said, a bunch of metal rings are going to go in one side and a starship's going to come out the other? I'm serious. That's what I think. That's what I think is going on here. He's just hanging out playing Factorio. Literally Factorio. Hey, he just wants to get off planet acting. I don't blame him. He's just making a copy-paste of the one in Florida with 2 less halls. Yeah. It's crazy. I found one of Elon's planes. What's the bet all 5 are like this? Planes change registration numbers all the time, Tessa. The plane tail number doesn't. It's not like an MOT. It doesn't stay with that plane. You can change the tail numbers. That's the license plate for the plane. And over here, license plates are changeable. That plate doesn't stay with it for the rest of its life. Yeah, it does change. So that might be the plane, that might not. But if it is, dude, that's crazy. I mean, November 502 Sierra X-Ray is an A319. So it's an A320. How does the high bay compare to the VAB? Oh, it's about half the size. Yeah. Yeah, that high bay is about 80 meters tall. It's about half the size of the VAB. Yeah, the VAB is 500 feet tall. So 160 meters, give or take. I mean, you could stack an entire Saturn V in it. Yeah, see. Yeah, so somebody photoshopped a picture of what that could look like. Yeah, slightly taller with 2 bays. Forge, I have a feeling that there's going to be another doorway on the other side. I don't know why I have that hunch, but I have a feeling that you're going to... So, like, look. That run the full span. You know what I mean? Like, why would you say that like that? I don't know. Tell me if I'm reading too much into it. Running the full span implies that the bay is long. And if it's long, you'd be like, why would you have one way in and one way out, right? That doesn't make any sense. So it would be much better to have starships go in, rings go in from one side and have starships come out the other side, right? At least that's what I'm thinking. Like, you'd just be able to use an SBMT and move it down the assembly line. Like Willow Run. That, I mean, once again, that's just a guess. Wait, Elon has a private plane, or is it a company plane? It's a company plane, Jack. Yeah, and once again, guys, I'm not even talking about the, I'm not even talking about the frickin',
Discovery, go at throttle.
words. We haven't even talked about the helicopters. Who knows what the heck the helicopters are for, right? Like, man, this is ridiculous. I just want to see the cranes that put it together. Well, Phil, we got a whispering a little while back that the Liebherr 13,000 is going to find its way down there, so... Oh boy. Enraged, can you imagine handling the books for SpaceX? That's either the coolest freaking job in the world or it sucks. Like, it's one or the other, dude. It's either the freaking coolest job in the world or managing the books for them is a freaking nightmare. Is that why the road is being redone? Which one, Drool? 2 bays side by side like a garage makes a lot of sense to me. Have one with a half-built Starship, the other bay putting the finishing touches on another, yeah. Crazy. Yeah, Raph, I suppose if it's a U shape, you go in and then it goes left to right instead of forward and back. But you'd want parallel processing, wouldn't you? Just thinking. I mean, once again, Willow Run was parallel processing. There's you could see the 2 parallel processing tracks right there. So the fuselages were made here and here, right? And then they took a left. It was a big L. Like, this is where they worked on fuselage manufacturing, engines and whatnot, right? And then these things fed this way, that fed this way, and you have 2 rows of assembly line. You had 2 rows of assembly line, and then at the end, both lines take a right, and they go out onto the ramp. So planes pop out over here. It's a big Z. Well, actually, it's kind of like this way, like picture an upside down T with a thing coming off the side. And these are all sub-assemblies here that feed in left to right. That's what Willow Run was like. Dude, once again, Elon copies Henry Ford's playbook. I will say this once, I'll say it again. Guy copies Henry Ford's playbook. I wouldn't be surprised if they looked at Willow Run and said, how did they do that? We're going to do that with starships. And for anybody thinking that I'm full of crap, take a look at this. This graph was actually posted, and Elon actually replied to it. Look. I heard from some people that there is talk that SpaceX is looking at an SMR for Boca Chica in the next few years. It was a conversation with someone you knew in the nuclear... Assault reactor? Interesting. Stupid question. I just got a new computer and I don't remember what file I put KSP's DLCs into. The DLCs? I've never manually installed one, Artyom. I just guessed that Kerbal just put them in the Kerbal Space Program folder. What about the Ford plant that's in 2 counties and pays taxes for only 1 county? I don't know. SMR is a small modular reactor. So check this out. For everyone looking to compare Tesla and the Ford Model T ramp, pulling data from Tesla website and Wikipedia for Ford. Look at it. It almost mirrors the Model T production. Salt reactors are MSR. Oh, okay. And then Elon said, cars today are far more complex than the Model T, with a global supply chain that is vulnerable to force majeure. An event or effect that cannot be reasonably anticipated or controlled. Okay, so yeah, supply chains. Your supply chains are so long that if something borks your supply chain down the line, it's Factorio conveyor belts. Long story short. Something borks the conveyor belt down the line, you're not going to know about it until it gets to the end, i.e. chip shortage. Hey, Airborne. Like the Model T, the supply chain for the battery in the EV simply doesn't exist at a massive scale, so it must be built in parallel. Yep. Ideas are easy, production is hard. Legend. Force majeure. Sure, okay. Majeure I will. Alright. Interesting. Force masher. All I can picture is a Willow Run style line with just starships coming down the line. And just take a high bay and just make it longer. I did. I acted actually a little while ago. I watch every RCR when it comes out, yeah. You think the new high bay could look like this? Maybe. Any plans for Factorio gaming streams anytime? I don't know. One big SSTO launch. It'll probably happen sometime this week, Aspect, if the program doesn't get canned. Yeah, it's pretty cool, Jack. It's pretty interesting stuff. But why, though? What's going to fly on all those Starship launches? Payload? See, that's the chicken and the egg argument, Raja. Once again, did Boeing build the 707 anticipating a commercial market that already existed, or did they make a 707 in the 60s to build a new market? Long story short, build a new market. The airline industry, there was no demand for airlines. Airlines up until when the 707 came around were just for rich people. And then they started mass producing 707s, and that brought the price of airfare down. Now, everyone travels on airliners everywhere. See what I'm talking about? There was no demand for Model Ts. Why did people need a car? Why do you need a car? You have a horse. The horse does everything that the car does. But if the price of a car goes below the price of a horse, why the heck would you have a horse in the first place? We're dealing with the biggest chicken and the egg in the last 100 years. Well, yeah, who knows? Easier said than done. Everybody said the market would explode because of Falcon 9. If anything, the market has gotten smaller. Yeah, I disagree with that, Raja. The market, if anything, the market has gotten smaller. That's wrong. No, that's not right. That's not right. Since Falcon 9, we've had a whole slew of small sat launchers pop up, like Rocket Lab, like Firefly, like Launcher, like Relativity. No, the market has grown. Not the opposite. When Falcon 9 started flying, it was the Space Shuttle, Atlas V, Delta IV, Orion, and Soyuz, and Proton. And then Zenit, and that's it. I don't think that's right. No, and these guys wouldn't throw billions of dollars at it if they didn't anticipate a return on investment, dude. That makes no sense. Why would you throw billions of dollars into an industry that's going to bust? That doesn't make sense. The market has grown, but it also changed. Payloads got smaller. But we're not talking about the payload size, K-Mir. We're talking about growth. We're talking about growth of the industry. I don't think the build it and they will come at always right, and I don't think the build it and they will come is always right. It works in some cases, but it should not be taken for granted. And yeah, the big satellite market is honestly still the same as it was. The small sat is the crazy area. Yeah, well, yeah, of course it's not always right. But see, give me an example then. I mean, you understand that, you know, you guys are understanding the context. I feel like a lot of people, I know, a lot of you guys are coming into this conversation late. The entire context for this is mass producing starships. You mass produce starships to anticipate demand that would happen because you have starships, all right? So by you guys saying, oh, that's not always the case, you're arguing against Starship. You're arguing against, oh, well, you know, he's going to build all these starships and we're not going to need all of them. Well, you can't predict that just as well that I can predict that you can. You know that, right? Like, Exactly that point, satellites have shifted to small sats and away from big satellites for big rockets. And unless there's a big constellation such as Starlink that needs to go on orbit, small satellites are going to want to fly on dedicated missions. Yeah, that's why SpaceX launches Transporter 1 and 2, right? You guys, you're making stuff up. Stop it. You're making stuff up. Even if the market went to small sat, SpaceX with Transporter 1 and 2 and SSOA still have offered a lower price than a dedicated launcher. Guys. Fellas, you're better than this. Come on. If you remove the Starlink government missions from the SpaceX manifest, they have around 6 true commercial launches this year. Right now, the peak from 2017 is when they had about 12. So that, like, Raph, I never understood that argument. That makes no sense. So there's internal missions. So SpaceX can't make the demand for their own rocket? What? I can predict that you won't need enough starships that you need a massive factory for them. Why can I predict this starship is fully reusable? So the more rockets you make, the bigger your fleet is. There's going to be an optimum size of the fleet that isn't infinity. Yeah, well... So why is the 747 still getting made after 50 years then, Synerd? That's... I do think the middle of the launch market Falcon not to save, especially with small sets, dedicated small sat ride shares and huge super heavy launch vehicles that are worried. Wouldn't be surprised if the small sat hits above. I don't think you... Okay, by that logic, we should just stagnate and just go back to expendable launch vehicles, guys. I don't think... that's not what SpaceX is trying to do. Like, remember, the whole premise for this is mass-producing starships. So by that what you're saying is SpaceX should make like 5 starships and then just keep going and just go from there. In which case we end up with another space shuttle program. I don't think that's a good idea. Actually, they're shutting down that line production, aren't they? So Synerd, basically what you're trying to tell me is that, you know, you'll produce a certain amount of things and then eventually something's production run will end. I mean, thanks. Yeah, man, sure. Heck of a revelation there, dude. I'm confused. What? Like, I don't understand. Why is the 747 still being made after 50 years? Because the cost is low enough, your average Joe can afford it. I'm not sure that if a mass-produced starship... you're not sure if a mass-produced starship will do the same. How would you know unless you went and tried to mass-produce it? I think it's just too soon to take everything claimed with Starship to the level that it's being held to. Lavi, I understand the skepticism, but I think that's that's a very bad faith-based argument. Honestly. And you know I'm critical of SpaceX on pretty much everything. I hold them to the same standard. But to say that they're not going to mass-produce starships at this point that's a complete 180 to their business strategy. That makes no sense. Yeah, Jack, exactly. Uh-huh. Hey, King. Actually, we're a little bit over. There is one more thing. There is one more thing here for the space news here. Check this out. They'll try. I'm just not convinced it'll work. Okay. Yeah. I mean... okay. You know, Lavi, that's the same thing that people said about reuse. Oh, I don't think, you know, they're going to try to land a rocket on a drone ship. I'm just not convinced it'll work. Like, oh, reusability doesn't make sense. They'll never be able to achieve profitability. I'm not sure that it's going to work. That's a very bad faith argument. You can be skeptical. That's totally fine. But saying that, oh, well, I'm not sure mass-producing starships is going to work. All right. That's okay. Little bit of a weird position to take, but okay. SpaceX has to make a lot of Starships. How else will Amazon deliver those Prime packages to the moon? Well, it's funny you should mention that, Enrays. Check this out. I'm not usually one to share Eric Berger's articles, but check this out. Peep this. I don't know how Eric figured this one out, but Blue Origin has a secret project named Jarvis to compete with SpaceX. This is the difference between taking a profit and a loss on New Glenn launches, okay? In May, a rumor concerning Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket broke out on several social media sites frequented by spaceflight enthusiasts. According to that, Blue Origin was changing the primary structural material of its new rocket from an aluminum alloy to stainless steel. The social media post sparked considerable interest as they implied that the company would mimic a competitor in its choice of materials, well, SpaceX. Moreover, such a change also argued further delays in the New Glenn development program, which was already years behind schedule. At the time, I checked with a source and found the rumor to be false. Yeah, okay. New Glenn was not swapping its first stage to stainless steel. Yeah, we figured that. Blue Origin came out and said that no, they're not doing that. However, after subsequent reporting, I discovered a kernel of truth to the rumors of stainless steel and Blue Origin rockets. 3 sources have confirmed to ours that Blue Origin has started working on a project to develop a fully reusable upper stage for New Glenn, which could potentially use stainless steel propellant tanks. The primary goal of this change is to bring down the overall cost of the New Glenn rocket. The vehicle's large upper stage with a 7-meter diameter and 2 BE-3U engines is costly, and Jeff Bezos is looking for ways to make the overall rocket more economical. This is a difference between taking profit and a loss on New Glenn launches. Interesting. It's called Project Jarvis. The reusable second stage program appears to have drawn inspiration from SpaceX for more than just its stainless steel materials. In making both the first and second stages of New Glenn fully reusable, Jeff Bezos is emulating Musk's ambitious plan to land and reuse both the Super Heavy booster and the Starship upper stage. When Elon Musk formally announced the Starship project in 2016, many in the industry were skeptical of his plan to build a massive reusable system. They remained dubious in early 2019 after Musk announced a switch from carbon fiber to stainless steel for the rocket's primary structure. Although stainless steel is cheaper and better able to withstand atmospheric heating during... It is about 5 times heavier than the composites. That's... No. No, that's not... No. Stainless steel gets stronger when it gets colder. Bezos has been asking his senior staffers about reusable upper stages, but advisors told him such an approach was unlikely to work. Bezos also seems to have been told that the SpaceX fail-forward method of rapidly prototyping and testing Starships with few processes and procedures would be unlikely to succeed. Man. That's like what you guys were saying. However, over the last year, Bezos took note as SpaceX launched and landed its Starship vehicle. This is one of the reasons he decided to initiate a project named Jarvis at Blue Origin with a reusable second stage program. See, I wonder if Eric's going to talk about why, like how it's reusable. Does it come back down and land? I mean, that's kind of what was implied up here. Or is it like reusable like ULA reusable? Sources said Bezos walled off parts of the second stage development program from the rest of Blue Origin and told its leaders to innovate in an environment unfettered by rigorous management and paperwork processes. Work has advanced quickly on the Jarvis project, apparently named after the character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Initial tank tests could begin as soon as this fall on hardware at Blue Origin's site. For now, at least the company's plan is to launch New Glenn initially with an expendable second stage before transitioning to a fully reusable upper stage in the mid-2020s. Such a fully reusable launch system is now seen as key to competing with SpaceX to launch large payloads. Interesting. Huh. Strange. Something like that, Sebi, yeah. What's very interesting to see to you is that Blue Origin is the only other forward-thinking company, forward-thinking enough to think that SpaceX has the right idea. Where does Dominic Toretto like to shop, RJ? Family Dollar. Nice. Interesting. That's kind of a lot to take in there. Yeah, if it's not a hoax. I mean, there's no concrete evidence of this. Please get Bob Smith out. Jeff should be in overall control of Blue Origin and make decisions. I have a feeling, Luke, that might be happening a lot quicker than we think. What is Relativity doing? I've seen it, no clue how it flies. Relativity's working on a fully reusable competitor to Falcon 9. It basically looks like BFR 2017. It's very similar to that. NSF confirmed it on stream, so it's true. Confirmed what, Bauxy? Sorry, I'm having like 3 different conversations. What did they confirm? Yeah, Synerd, I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure. It's an interesting one. The reusable second stage. Yeah, but how is it reusable? After all, Bezos is an astronaut, Bob is not. Actually, Kem, the FAA changed their designation for astronauts. They changed the rules for being an astronaut, so Jeff isn't an astronaut by their new definition, which is kind of awkward, but all right. It explained the stainless steel rumors from 2 months ago. Yeah, Sammy, that's true. Yeah, Senchai, if I'm remembering correctly. That's really weird, dude. Yeah, .com, I think that... It's interesting. If Jeff ends up running Blue Origin, man, I'm pretty sure he's... if he ends up running Blue Origin, I'm pretty sure that, you know, he'll go full force like Amazon ham on things. And yeah, stuff might get a little bit crazy in the next couple of years. That would be insane. I guess, Synerd, yeah. Given Jeff's comments at NS16, I say it'll incorporate whatever they're testing on New Shepard. Yeah, it was no secret he was talking about scalability there, for sure. Yeah, Kamer, finally. Yeah, it took long enough. But, I mean, Elon also, you know, wanted to start a spaceflight company and then didn't until he finished working at PayPal, right? Like, have you already talked about the $2 billion deal to NASA? No, I haven't. I mean, Kem, imagine that Jeff does so good that we will be saying Elon who. Dude, I cannot even imagine if Jeff Bezos goes at running Blue Origin with all the resources he has available to him. that's gonna get nuts, dude. That's gonna get insane. I want O'Neill cylinders in my lifetime. Well, Luke, you might just get it. Holy crap. And if New Glenn's upper stage becomes another Starship and it becomes reusable, we're gonna have there's 3 space shuttle style, like, fully reusable lifters on the books right now. Then Relativity has the Terran R, I think. Blue Origin with whatever the heck New Glenn's gonna do, and then Starship. That's ridiculous. Wow. Imagine having access to Amazon Web Services that Jeff does to design and simulate rockets. I mean, Hellfish, you'll put they could literally iteratively test virtually and do it way faster than anybody else. Oh, I'd be You know how we always joke, like, oh, my Amazon package is going to be shipped via a suborbital flight? Well, that'd be a huge boost to the new Armstrong vehicle, which should be massive and also fully reusable. Virtual testing? I wonder what happened last time someone tried that. I mean, demo, everybody does that. You know that. Even SpaceX. SpaceX has visualizations and trajectory simulations all the time. Just as good as the F1 tire graphics. Ooh, cringe. Yeah, he retired from running Amazon in the day-to-day and did say he was going to be concentrating on Blue Origin. Tessa, that's going to be insane. It's definitely convenient, Kem, that's for sure. Can you imagine if New Glenn is going to be another Starship? I mean, guys, that's a very, very feasible thing. That's a very real thing that could happen here. Man, what a timeline. Amazon and company have absolutely terrific, terrifying amount of power in every way imaginable. Yeah, and Lavi, like, don't get me wrong, I'm like, you know, like, whether you're okay with that or not, I don't know. I guess that comes down to personal opinion. But geez, that kind of force going after spaceflight is kind of like, I kind of want this. Am I right? I mean, Lavi, if Jeff goes all in on full reuse. If Jeff goes in on full reuse, we might... That assembly line of Starships might not be enough. Whoa. Yeah, Lavi, I'm with you on that one. Holy crap. Maybe we might see freaking factories of Starships. Holy crap. Wow. That would be something to see. That's for sure. That would be something to see. He has to build a satellite constellation somehow. It's the best option. That's actually a very good point, Kem. Yeah. Maybe it's Jeff Bezos that'll have the 707 moment in spaceflight. Hellfish, I'll be honest with you. I'm just like kind of hyped that 707 moment could even happen. Like, if some of these projects go through, man, if some of these projects go through, like, heck, if Starship even works, and like, that's another question. Why is Elon pushing so hard for Starship, like more so than usual? Do you think he wants to beat Blue to market with whatever they're working on? I mean, he's already light years ahead, but complacency never gets you ahead in anything, right? We have so many new launches, but what about the payload industry? Well, Floating, that's the conversation we were just having. The market is going down, and it's trending towards small satellites because small sats have become a lot cheaper to manufacture, and part of that is because of the expanded launch market. But what we were talking about a little bit earlier on stream was, is it a chicken or the egg thing? Do you build a bigger launch vehicle because you're anticipating a market for that vehicle, or do you build a bigger launch vehicle because a market's going to come out of having a bigger launch vehicle and a cheaper way to get into space? Yeah, Tessa, interesting. I guess that SpaceX wants to prove Starship as soon as possible to gain market share. I'm gonna hide under my rock and hug my orange rocket. Wake me up when Blue flips the switch and the 707 moment arrives. I mean, Lavi, I'll be the first one to say that above everything here, NASA should have their redundant dissimilar capability to private companies. They absolutely should. Yeah. Looks like we got this type of future. What's that? Seeing the digital future. Yeah, right. SpaceX built Falcon Heavy, but it didn't really change the market. The other thing that Starship is on a different level, of course. I hope not, Tessa. But it's going to make the shuttle look like the damn DC-3. Great idea, just executed a little bit too early. Or Tessa, in this scenario, the shuttle is the comet. In which case, we're about to get a DC-8 and a 707 and a Convair 990. If that's the case, holy crap, that's going to be cool. Surprised me too. Elon is literally chartering work. Yeah, Bill, we covered that. Yeah, he's chartering people to move around. Why is he pushing so hard for this orbital flight test? Like, this is the hardest I've seen SpaceX push on anything. Like, to the point where they're moving people around on their private jet, dude. Something ain't stirring the Kool-Aid here, man. All of this plus Nerva. This is insane. Could you completely automate boost back and landing of a Condor booster with a Cal controller? Hard to do, Panta, because of differential payload mass. I always have the orange rocket to count down on. Well, like I said, Lavi, the post office still exists. NASA having its own redundant capability, just like the post office having redundant capability to FedEx, is a very good analogy for where we should be in space flight. Because the post office can do things that FedEx can, and FedEx can do things that the post office can. We get the best of both worlds here. So we don't prop up the post office, but we keep it as a service to have a capability and a pricing point for these private companies to compare their prices to. How often have you seen a FedEx or a UPS commercial saying, "Oh, we're cheaper than the post office"? It's a good idea. And we should keep doing that. SLS with liquid flyback boosters, smart reuse, and a reusable second stage. We can dream, dude. But the USPS can do a bunch of other things too. You know, it can issue passports, for instance, or stamps, or whatever. Like there's a bunch of other services that the post office offers that you wouldn't be able to get from FedEx, right? And that's the capability that's why we still pay for the post office and why the post office still exists. It's a vital piece of infrastructure. And once again, I think NASA should be the same way. The United States Postal Service can arrest people. Interesting. Very interesting. Anyway, that's going to do it for Space News.